January 23rd, 1944, Monte Cassino, Italy. Staff Sergeant Dalton Brennan lay perfectly still, his body pressed against cold stone. The rocky outcrop bit into his ribs through 3 layers of wool. 640 yards below, German mortar teams prepared to kill Americans. Through his rifle scope, he saw what others would miss. An olive grove, Bond farmhouse, rubble scattered like broken teeth across Italian dirt. He counted. 42 trees yesterday. His eyes moved across the grove again. Slower this time. Every trunk, every shadow, every branch. 43 today. Private Roscoe Webb lay beside him, binoculars pressed to his face. His breath came in short clouds in the frozen mountain air. "Webb." Dalton's voice barely rose above a whisper. "How many trees you see in that grove?" Webb squinted harder. "Hell if I know, Sarge. 30? 40? 42 yesterday. 43 today." Webb lowered the binoculars, looked at his sergeant.
"So they planted one overnight?"
"No." Dalton's finger moved fractionally, pointing. "They built one." Inside the fake tree, hidden by bark and branches that looked perfect from a distance, sat a German 88mm gun, camouflaged with the kind of precision that killed observation teams, that destroyed forward positions before anyone knew what hit them. 200 Americans would die at dawn if that gun fired. Dalton's rifle looked strange. A tomato soup can, scorched and dented, was duct-taped to the barrel. It looked like something a child made. It looked insane. It worked perfectly. No muzzle flash meant invisible. Invisible meant alive. "One shot, Webb." Webb's jaw tightened. "One shot, then 60 Germans hunting us after. Then we better not miss." 3, 2, 1. What Dalton saw that morning saved 200 lives. What he couldn't see almost killed him. This is the story of 72 hours nobody was supposed to survive. The year was 1928, Colmont, Tennessee.
Population 387.
Every man in town worked coal, black lung country, company store debt, wages that barely fed families. Thomas Brennan came home each night covered in coal dust, hands cracked and bleeding, lungs getting worse each month, 6 children waiting for supper that never quite filled their bellies. His middle son, 8-year-old Dalton, held a rifle almost as tall as he was. "Boy," Thomas pointed into the woods behind their house. "You see that squirrel?" Dalton nodded. The squirrel sat on a low branch, 60 yards away. His father had given him 1.22 bullet, just one. "You miss, we eat less this week. Understand?" The weight of those words settled on the boy's thin shoulders. This wasn't sport. This wasn't practice. This was whether his younger sisters got enough to eat. 1 bullet. 1 chance. Dalton raised the rifle, too heavy for proper aim. He braced it against the fence post, breathed like his father taught him, squeezed, slow. The crack echoed across the hollow. The squirrel fell. "Good boy." Thomas's hand rested on his son's shoulder. "Now you know what it costs." 1 year later, the Great Depression hit. The coal mine cut wages, then cut them again, then stopped paying altogether for weeks at a time. Dalton hunted every single day after that, not because he wanted to, because his family needed to eat. By age 12, he developed a skill nobody could quite explain. He memorized terrain the way other boys memorized baseball statistics. 143 trees grew on the ridge behind the Brennan house. He knew every one, their shapes, their shadows, the way wind moved through their branches. One night, a storm blew through. Lightning split the sky, thunder shook the windows. Morning came grey and cold. Dalton stood at the kitchen window, stared at the ridge. Something felt wrong. "Something's different." His father looked up from his coffee. "What's different?" "Trees gone. The oak, 40 yards from the creek." Thomas walked to the window, looked out. His son was right. A tree that had stood for decades lay split and fallen, impossible to see from the house, hidden by other trees, but Dalton knew. "How'd you know that?" "Just knew. one less shadow than yesterday. By 15, Dalton could spot a moved rock at 200 yards, could track a wounded deer 3 miles through forest that all looked the same to everyone else. How did he do it? One branch broke different. The neighbors started talking. That Brennan boy ain't right. Sees things that ain't there, or sees things nobody else can see. But Dalton didn't see things that weren't there. He saw things exactly as they were. Every detail, every change. His brain recorded terrain like a camera, compared today to yesterday. Noticed the single element that shifted. It was survival. When missing a shot meant your sister ate half a biscuit instead of a whole one, you learn not to miss.
You learn to see what others overlooked.
Then came 1935. The coal mine closed for good. Most families packed up and left. The Brennans stayed. They had nowhere else to go. Thomas took one last shift, trying to salvage equipment the company abandoned. The roof gave way, crushed him under tons of rock and timber. They brought his body home in the back of a truck. Dalton was 15, oldest boy still living at home. 6 mouths to feed now depended on him. He hunted every single day after that, dawn to dusk, through heat and cold and rain. If he came home empty-handed, his siblings went hungry. 10,000 hours in those Tennessee woods. 10,000 hours memorizing, observing, noticing the single pine cone out of place, the one broken twig, the shadow that fell wrong. Most boys his age were learning to dance with girls, going to school, playing games. Dalton was learning to be invisible, learning to see what others couldn't, learning that the difference between eating and starving was noticing what changed. December 7th, 1941, Sunday afternoon. Dalton, 21 now, drove a coal truck for what little mining operation still ran. The radio crackled to life. President Roosevelt's voice. Words that stopped the nation cold. Pearl Harbor. Attacked. War. December 8th. Dalton walked into the recruitment office in Chattanooga, 50 miles from Colmont. The recruiter looked him over. Skinny. Underfed. Clothes worn through at the elbows. "You sure about this, son?" "Yes, sir." "What can you do?" "I can shoot." The recruiter smiled. Everyone said they could shoot. "We'll see about that." Fort Benning, Georgia. Basic training. February 1942. Rifle range. First day. Instructor walked the line of recruits, all of them fresh-faced and nervous. None had ever shot at anything that might shoot back. "Anybody here can shoot?" 12 hands went up. Farm boys mostly, a few hunters. The instructor stopped at Dalton. Something in the way he held the rifle. "You, Brennan?" "Yes, drill sergeant." "Prove it." 300 yards, 10 shots. The target barely visible in the distance. Wind gusting from the east. Dalton fired methodically. No rush. Same breathing pattern he'd used on squirrels, on deer, on rabbits that fed his family. 10 shots, 10 holes in the bullseye. The instructor walked down to check the target, walked back, looked at Dalton with new eyes. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" "Tennessee, drill sergeant. Squirrels mostly." "Squirrels don't shoot back, boy." "No, drill sergeant. But they don't stay still either, and missing meant my family ate less." Something in those words made the instructor pause. This wasn't sport shooting. This was something else, something the Army didn't teach. 2 weeks later, Dalton received orders. Sniper school, Camp Perry, Ohio. The training was intense. British instructors taught ghillie suit construction, camouflage techniques developed in the forests of France and Belgium, how to blend into European woodland. Dalton studied the suits, green and brown patterns, oak leaves, pine needles, designed for the thick forests of northern Europe. But rumors said they were shipping to Italy, Mediterranean climate, olive trees, rocky hillsides, dust and scrub brush, not Belgian pine forest. "Instructor," Dalton raised his hand during a camouflage lecture. "This won't work in Italy." The British sergeant stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me, Private." "The ghillie suit, sir. It's built for European forest. Italy's different terrain." "It's regulation, Private Brennan. Regulation means it works everywhere." Dalton knew better. A squirrel didn't care about regulation. A mountain didn't either. But he'd learned when to speak and when to stay quiet. He stayed quiet. But he remembered. September 9th, 1943, Salerno, Italy. The 1st Infantry Division hit the beaches at dawn. German artillery pounded the landing zones. Men died before they reached dry sand. Dalton's sniper team consisted of 4 men. Staff Sergeant Dalton Brennan as team leader. Private Roscoe Webb, his spotter. A farm boy from Georgia who understood patience. Private Merle Caldwell, 19 years old, from Kentucky coal country like Dalton. And Corporal Roy Hansen, a veteran who trusted only what he'd seen work before. They moved inland, set up operations, started hunting German positions. But first came the briefing. Major Victor Stone, West Point graduate, career officer, a man who believed the manual contained answers to every question. Regulation ghillie suits. Stone's finger tapped the table for emphasis. Regulation positions. Regulation tactics. Is that understood? Sir, Dalton raised his hand. The terrain here is different from training. We should adapt our camouflage to match the local vegetation and rock formations. Stone's expression hardened. The ghillie suit is regulation for a reason, Sergeant. It's been tested, proven, standardized. You will use regulation equipment. That is not a suggestion. That is an order. Yes, sir. But Dalton knew the way he'd known about that fallen oak tree. Something was wrong. The green and brown patterns stood out against grey Italian stone, against olive trees and dust-colored scrub. They'd be visible. Visible meant dead. October 3rd, 1943. First mission. Target, German observation post, 800 yards into enemy territory. The post directed artillery fire that killed Americans daily. Eliminate the observers, save lives. Simple mission. Dalton's team moved into position before dawn, wearing regulation ghillie suits, green and brown against Italian hillside, like Christmas trees in a desert. They found their hide, rocky outcropping, good sight lines to the German position. Merle Caldwell set up 70 yards to their left, flanking position. Standard tactical placement. The sun rose. Italian sun, bright and hard, casting sharp shadows across stone. Dalton looked through his scope, saw the German observation post clearly. 3 men, binoculars, radio equipment. Then he looked at his own position, at Merle's position. The ghillie suits stood out, dark shapes against light-colored rock. Anyone with binoculars could spot them. Webb! Dalton's voice was tight. We're too visible. Regulation camouflage, Sarge. Regulation's gonna get us killed. 800 hours. German mortar fire began. Not at them, at American positions 2 miles south. The observation post was calling in coordinates, directing the slaughter. Dalton needed to take the shot, but moving now would expose his position completely. Then he saw it. German soldier, binoculars, scanning the hillside. The binoculars stopped, focused, right at Merle Caldwell's position. "Merle, move, now!" The words barely left Dalton's mouth when mortar rounds screamed down, not at the Americans 2 miles south, at Merle's position. Direct hit. The explosion tore through rock and dirt and human flesh. Dalton moved without thinking, low crawl, 40 yards, under fire, mortar rounds walking closer, machine gun fire from the observation post. Bullets sparked off stones inches from his head. He reached Merle's position. The boy lay broken, both legs gone below the knee, gut wound bleeding black, face pale as winter snow. 19 years old, should have been home courting girls, should have been working his father's farm. "Sarge!" Blood bubbled at Merle's lips. "Did I do something wrong?" Dalton pulled him close. "No, Merle, I did. I knew the camouflage was wrong. I knew it." "Cold, Sarge." "I know. I got you." "Tell my ma I wasn't scared." "You weren't. You were brave." Merle Caldwell died in Dalton Brennan's arms. Age 19. Never kissed a girl. Never saw his Kentucky hills again. Dead because camouflage didn't match terrain. Dead because Dalton followed an order he knew was wrong. Webb helped drag the body back, under fire the whole way. Somehow they made it. Somehow they lived. That night, Dalton sat alone in his tent. Merle's blood still dark under his fingernails, still crusted on his uniform sleeves. Webb entered quietly, sat down without speaking. I knew. Dalton's voice broke. I knew that Ghillie was wrong for this terrain. I said something. Stone shut me down, and I followed the order anyway. You didn't have a choice. Yes, I did. I could have modified the camouflage anyway, faced the consequences. Merle would still be alive. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Silence filled the tent. Outside, artillery rumbled in the distance. Men dying. Men who might live if their equipment matched their environment. Dalton made a decision. The kind of decision that ended careers. The kind that risked court-martial.
But the kind that kept men breathing.
We're fixing the camouflage. Tonight. Webb looked up. That's insubordination. That's staying alive. You with me? Webb thought about Merle, thought about his own mother receiving a telegram, thought about dying because some officer never left a desk. What are we doing? Adapting, like we should have from the start. That night they gathered local materials, olive branches, stone dust, burlap from abandoned buildings. They tore apart regulation ghillie suits, rebuilt them with Italian terrain in mind. Grey, tan, dusty green, colors that matched the hillsides they hunted on. By dawn, they were different soldiers, still American, still following most regulations, but alive. October through December 1943. 3 months of secret operations. Dalton's team modified everything. Positions, movement patterns, camouflage. They coded their position reports to hide what they were doing.
Kept the modifications invisible to officers like Major Stone.
Results came fast. 43 confirmed enemy kills, 0 casualties on their team. While other sniper sections lost 70% of their men, Dalton's team lost nobody. But one problem remained: muzzle flash. When a rifle fires, burning powder creates a bright flash, visible for 800 yards or more. In dawn or dusk light, that flash pinpointed a sniper's position. German counter-snipers used muzzle flash to kill American shooters. The military solution cost $47 per unit, 6-week order time, 2 pounds of weight. Dalton found a different solution: army mess tent, tomato soup cans by the hundreds. Soldiers ate soup, threw away cans. Dalton saved one, cleaned it, let it dry. He took duct tape from the motor pool, wrapped the can around his rifle barrel, let the muzzle stick through into the can's hollow interior. Webb watched. That's the dumbest thing I ever seen. Let's test it.
Dusk.
They moved to an isolated position, set up 2 rifles, one standard, one with soup can attached. Dalton fired the standard rifle, flash bright and obvious, visible across the valley. Then he fired through the soup can. The can caught the flash, dispersed it through scorched metal. From a distance, nothing. Webb stared. I'll be damned. The soup can weighed 4 ounces, cost $0, could be replaced in 30 seconds when it wore out. Mess tent had hundreds more. It was civilian thinking, Tennessee thinking. You don't have fancy gear, you use what's there. A soup can worked the same as a $47 suppressor. Maybe better, because you could replace it without waiting 6 weeks for supply. Hansen saw the soup can. If Major Stone sees that, you're done. Then we shoot at dawn and dusk only. Change cans every 20 rounds. He'll never know. For 2 months it worked. Dalton's kill count climbed. His team stayed invisible, stayed alive.
But good luck never lasts forever.
January 15th, 1944. Gustav Line. The front had stalled completely. German defensive positions stretched across Italy's narrowest point. Mountains, rivers, fortified towns. Thousands of Americans died trying to advance. Mortar fire caused 60% of Allied casualties. Mobile mortar teams set up, fired, relocated before counter-battery could respond. Invisible, deadly, unstoppable. Allied command sent sniper teams to eliminate mortar positions. 70% of those snipers died. Killed because their camouflage stood out, because their muzzle flash revealed them, because standard tactics failed against German precision. Dalton's team had 0 casualties, 300% higher kill rate than any other section. Someone noticed. Major Stone summoned Dalton to his command post, a farmhouse 3 kilometers behind the line. Maps covered the walls. Radio chatter filled the air. "Sergeant Brennan, sit." Dalton remained standing.
"I'm good, sir."
"That's an order." Dalton sat. Stone spread a map across the table. His finger traced red circles, 19 of them. "Your section has 0 casualties since October. Every other sniper team has lost men. Most have lost more than half. Explain that." "We're careful, sir." "Don't lie to me, Sergeant." Stone's eyes were hard. "I reviewed your position reports. You claimed to observe from locations that couldn't possibly provide the detail you reported, which means you were somewhere else, which means you've been lying about your positions, which means you modified your equipment against my direct order." The tent went quiet. Outside, distant artillery. Inside, a career ending. "Yes, sir, I modified the equipment." Stone nodded slowly. "Under normal circumstances, I'd recommend you for court-martial. Insubordination, destruction of military property, disobeying a direct order from a superior officer." Dalton said nothing, waited for the hammer to fall.
"But these aren't normal circumstances."
Stone pointed at the map, at 19 red circles. "German mortar positions. They're killing 50 to 80 Americans every day. Conventional artillery can't reach them. Airstrikes can't spot them through cloud cover. Every sniper team we send gets spotted and killed." Stone looked at Dalton, really looked at him. 72 hours, Sergeant. Eliminate as many of those positions as possible. Use whatever methods you deem necessary." The words took a moment to register. "Sir, that's impossible. 19 positions across enemy territory, heavily defended. We'd never make it back." "Probably not, but you'll save American lives trying, and that's what matters." Stone extended his hand, a handshake between 2 soldiers who'd been enemies an hour ago. Dalton shook it. "Dismissed, Sergeant. Officially, this is routine reconnaissance. Unofficially, bring our boys home." Dalton walked back to his tent, found Webb cleaning his rifle.
"We got a mission."
Webb looked up. "What kind?" "The impossible kind. 19 mortar positions, 72 hours. Webb whistled low. "That's suicide." Dalton reached for his rifle, checked the soup can taped to the barrel, started gathering ammunition. "Then we better start counting trees." January 20th, 1944. 4 in the morning. Dalton and Webb moved like shadows across frozen ground, 600 yards into German territory. It would take 18 hours. 18 hours to advance what a man could walk in 10 minutes, because moving meant dying, because the Germans owned these mountains, because 2 Americans trying to cross open ground would be spotted, surrounded, killed within minutes. So they didn't walk, they crawled, inches at a time. When artillery fired in the distance, they moved. The sound covered their movement. The ground shook, and they slid forward on their bellies. 6 inches, 12 inches. A foot of progress bought with cramping muscles and bleeding elbows. When artillery stopped, they froze, completely still, not just motionless, becoming stone, becoming earth, breathing so shallow their chests barely moved. A German patrol passed 30 feet away at noon, 7 soldiers, talking in low German, smoking cigarettes, scanning the hillside for threats. One soldier stopped, looked directly at the spot where Dalton lay. The soldier's eyes moved across rocks, across scrub brush, across the modified ghillie suit that blended grey and tan and dusty green. His eyes passed over them without recognition. He moved on. Webb's heart hammered so hard Dalton could feel it through the ground. But Webb didn't move, didn't breathe heavy, didn't give them away. Only after the patrol disappeared over the ridge did Dalton whisper, "Good." By 6:45 in the morning, they'd reached their position. A rocky outcrop overlooking a valley. Natural camouflage. Good sightlines to German positions below. Dalton's hands were numb, knees bleeding through his pants, back screaming from 18 hours of crawling. Webb's cough had started during the night, small at first, getting worse. But they were alive. They were in position. They had work to do. Dalton counted trees, rocks, bushes, memorized the valley. Tomorrow, he'd count again. Any change meant enemy activity. 8:47. German mortar team arrived in the valley below. 7 men, moving with practiced efficiency, setting up an 81mm mortar tube, the same kind of mortar that killed Americans daily, that had killed Merle Caldwell. This team would fire at 900 hours, would launch 40 rounds into American positions 3 miles west, would kill 15, maybe 20 soldiers who'd never see it coming, unless Dalton stopped them. He checked the soup can on his rifle barrel, duct tape secure, can fresh, no scorching yet from previous shots. Range, 643 yards. Wind, 8 miles per hour, left to right. Temperature, 41 degrees. Clear sky. He calculated bullet drop, wind drift, all the mathematics of death. Target priority. First, the mortar gunner. Stop the immediate threat. Second, the team leader. Stop coordination. Third, the radio operator. Stop them calling for help. His crosshairs settled on the German sergeant's chest. A man maybe 30 years old, maybe had a family, maybe had children waiting in Stuttgart or Munich or Berlin. Dalton breathed in, let half the breath out, held the rest, squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, sound suppressed slightly by the soup can. Through the can, no muzzle flash, just clean discharge. Through the scope, the sergeant dropped, dead before he hit ground. The other Germans froze, confused. Where did the shot come from? They'd heard the crack, but sound echoed off rocks. Could have come from anywhere. Second shot. The gunner fell. Chest wound. Dead. Third shot. Radio operator. Down. The remaining 4 Germans scattered, dove for cover, abandoned their mortar, ran for the tree line. Dalton let them go. Mission wasn't killing every German. Mission was stopping the mortar fire. Mortar abandoned meant mission accomplished. 3 shots, position eliminated. Webb marked it in his notebook. Precise coordinates, time, weather conditions. 16 to go. But the Germans weren't done. They didn't know where the shots came from, but they knew someone was hunting them. Within 20 minutes, a search party deployed. 20 men, sweeping the hillside in a line. Dalton and Webb froze again. The modified ghillie suits blended perfectly with Italian terrain. Olive branches woven through burlap, stone dust coating the fabric, colors matching the hillside exactly. The German search line came within 30 feet. A young soldier, maybe 19, scanned the rocks with binoculars. His gaze passed directly over Dalton's position.
Saw rocks, saw bushes, saw terrain, did not see Americans. The search party moved on, frustrated, angry, hunting ghosts. 2 in the afternoon, the search shifted to another area. Dalton had a window. Target 2, 580 yards. 3 Germans, 3 shots, 3 bodies. Target 3, 710 yards. 4 Germans setting up another mortar position. 4 shots, all down. Target 4, 620 yards. 3-man team. Dalton's hands were shaking now from cold and strain. Had to wait, steady his breathing, wait for the shake to pass. 3 more shots, 3 more dead. Day 1 totals, 13 enemy killed, 4 mortar positions eliminated. But the cost was adding up. Webb coughed blood into his hand, tried to hide it, failed. Dalton's right hand cramped so bad he could barely work the rifle bolt. Both men had eaten nothing in 20 hours, just sips of water from canteens that were nearly empty. Night came. They had to move. German patrols would search this area all night. Staying meant getting caught.
Relocation took 6 hours. 400 yards of movement through darkness, through German territory, past listening posts and sentries. They found a new position by 3 in the morning, a drainage ditch, natural concealment, good fields of fire, 2 hours of sleep, 1 man watching while the other slept. 15-minute shifts because longer meant freezing to death in the cold. At dawn, they were ready again. Day 2, January 21st. The drainage ditch offered perfect concealment. They'd modified the ghillie suits again during the night, added mud, dead grass from the ditch, small stones. Now they were 250 yards from a German command post, Closer than yesterday, more dangerous, but better vantage point. Dalton performed his morning routine, counted visible features: 38 trees, 2 vehicles, 5 tents, 22 Germans. Then fog rolled in. Thick white fog. Italian morning fog that reduced visibility to 100 yards. Webb swore quietly. Can't see anything. But Dalton saw opportunity. They can't see either. He made a decision. Bold, probably stupid, possibly brilliant. We're moving closer. In daylight? In fog? That's insane. Fog gives us cover. Move slow. Stay silent. Modified Ghillie makes us invisible even at 10 feet. They advanced through the fog. Glacial progress. 1 foot every 5 minutes. But the fog was thick as wool. Visibility maybe 50 yards. They moved from 250 yards out to 175, right under the Germans' noses, in broad daylight. Found a new position. Rock outcropping. Perfect hide. Perfect sight lines. The fog began to thin. 1,000 hours. The Germans became visible again through lifting mist. Officers, 3 of them, a major and 2 captains. High-value targets, not on Dalton's mission list. Not part of the 19 mortar positions he was assigned to destroy. But these officers directed mortar fire, coordinated artillery, made tactical decisions that killed Americans. That's not our mission. Webb's voice was tight. They're directing mortar fire right now. We take them, we compromise our position. Germans will swarm this area. Dalton watched through his scope. The major stood outside a tent, studying maps, pointing, giving orders. 2 captains beside him taking notes. Kill them. Disrupt German command. Save American lives today. But alert every German in a mile radius. Risk the entire mission. The officers walked between buildings, exposed for maybe 60 seconds total. 60 seconds to decide, to shoot or not shoot, to follow orders or follow instinct. Dalton thought of Merle Caldwell, dead because following bad orders, dead because not adapting to reality. Recording these as bonus kills. 3 shots, 8 seconds total, major, chest shot. Dropped like a stone, first captain, headshot, instant death. Second captain running, Dalton led him, caught him mid-stride, down. Immediate chaos, alarms, Germans poured out of tents and buildings, over 100 soldiers mobilizing, searching, hunting. Move! Dalton slid backward. Now! They crawled, slow, controlled. Every instinct screamed to run, but running meant visibility. Visibility meant death. German soldiers spread out, searching everywhere. Machine guns set up on high ground, mortar teams ready to fire at any spotted target. Then the worst happened. A German machine gun crew chose Dalton's rock outcropping. Perfect position for an MG-42. Good fields of fire, natural cover. 3 Germans set up the gun, 15 feet from where Dalton and Webb lay hidden. Actually closer than that. The gun positioned on top of the rock above their hiding spot. The gunner sat on the rock itself, 6 inches above Dalton's head. Dalton could hear German conversation. Could understand some words. His German wasn't great, but good enough. Ghost sniper. Killed 3 officers. Must be close. Very close. Search every rock, every bush, every shadow. The gunner shifted position. His weight pressed down on the rock, right above Dalton's skull. Webb's cough rose in his throat. The tickle that became a cough, that became blood. Dalton's hand moved, covered Webb's mouth, gentle but firm. Webb's eyes watered, body shaking, desperate to cough, desperate to breathe. 2 hours, the Germans stayed. 2 hours with a machine gun set up 6 inches above their heads. 2 hours of absolute stillness. Not breathing heavy, not moving, not existing. Webb finally coughed, small, muffled into Dalton's hand, bloody. A German soldier turned. Did you hear something? What? Thought I heard something, like a cough. 3 Germans stood, looked around, looked at the rocks, at the bushes, looked directly at where Dalton and Webb lay. Saw rocks, saw bushes, saw landscape. Did not see men. You're hearing things, stress. Maybe. Finally, after an eternity,
The Germans relocated the gun, moved it 50 yards away. Better field of fire on a different approach. Window of opportunity. 10 seconds, maybe less. Dalton signaled, hand gesture, slow backward crawl. They moved like water, like they were part of the hillside flowing downward, inch by inch. The Germans 50 yards away, backs turned. 30 minutes to move 20 feet. But they cleared the immediate danger zone. Webb vomited. Stress and fear and sickness vomited into the dirt and rocks. Dalton shook, whole body shaking, not from cold, from knowing how close death had been. But they were alive, still invisible, still hunting. 3:30 in the afternoon. The search parties moved to other areas. Germans, convinced the ghost sniper had fled. Dalton went back to work. Position 5, 630 yards, 4 kills. Position 6, 700 yards, 3 kills. Position 7, 580 yards, 5 kills. Position 8, 610 yards, 3 kills. Day 2 totals, 18 kills including 3 officers, running total 31 enemy dead. Webb was worse, fever climbing, coughing blood constantly, face pale, shaking. "I'm good, Sarge." "You're dying, Webb." "Not yet, I ain't." They relocated again that night. 400 yards, 7 hours of crawling. Dalton, half dragged, half carried Webb for parts of it, found a hide position by dawn. Both men had slept maybe 4 hours in 48. Both were running on discipline and stubbornness, and the knowledge that stopping meant dying. Day 3, January 23rd. The morning count revealed the fake tree. 42 trees yesterday, 43 today. One tree too perfect, too symmetrical. Branches at wrong angles for natural growth. No bird nests, no broken limbs. Inside that tree sat a German 88mm gun, the kind that destroyed tanks. That would devastate the American attack planned for 0600 hours. 200 casualties minimum if that gun fired. Problem: tree was hardened position. Rifle bullets wouldn't penetrate, couldn't destroy the gun directly, had to kill the crew. But the crew was inside, protected. Solution: wait for shift change. Morning shift change happened at 05:45. Crew would exit the fake tree for 30 to 60 seconds. Stretch, smoke, hand off to day crew. One chance. 05:44. The tree opened. 5 Germans emerged. Gun crew. They stretched tired muscles, lit cigarettes, breathed free air. 60 seconds to eliminate the threat. Dalton fired. Gunner. Headshot. Down. 3 seconds. Loader. Chest. Down. 6 seconds. Commander. Head. Down. 9 seconds. Radio operator. Chest. Down. 11 seconds. Assistant gunner running. Leg shot. Stumbled. Headshot. Down. All 5 dead in 11 seconds. Through the soup can, 0 muzzle flash. German observers saw men falling, saw no source, no sound direction, nothing to shoot back at. Ghost. The rumors spread. Geist. The Americans have a ghost killing us. Panic rippled through German positions. Men who'd fought with discipline for months started looking over shoulders, started hesitating, started fearing the invisible enemy. Morning continuation. 0800 to 1200 hours. Dalton became mechanical, not human anymore. Just count, aim, shoot, count. Position 9, 740 yards, 3 kills. Position 10, 610 yards, 4 kills. Position 11, 680 yards, 3 kills. Position 12, 590 yards, 4 kills. Position 13, 720 yards, 3 kills. Webb barely functioned, called wind and range in a hoarse whisper, coughed blood between Dalton's shots, fever over 104, should have been evacuated, refused to leave. 1 in the afternoon, positions 14 through 16, 10 more kills, 3:30. Artillery observer team, bonus target, 4 kills, 4 in the afternoon, positions 18 and 19. The final targets, 7 kills, mission complete, 19 mortar positions destroyed, 47 German soldiers dead, 3 officers, one artillery observer team. 72 hours of hunting, 72 hours of being hunted. After the final shot, Dalton tried to stand. His legs wouldn't work, muscles locked, cramped, frozen. Webb was unconscious, fever burning, breathing shallow. Extraction. 8 hours to reach American lines. Most dangerous phase of the entire mission. Dalton half-carried Webb, dragged him when carrying failed, moved through German territory, past patrols, past listening posts, past sentries. 11 at night. German patrols surrounded their position. 15 men, setting up a defensive position for the night. Dalton and unconscious Webb were in the middle of the German camp.
Couldn't move, couldn't fight, could only freeze. Entire night, 7 hours. Germans sleeping 10 feet away, cooking food, talking, laughing. Dalton held Webb's mouth. Webb was delirious, fever dreams, talking. Dalton had to keep him silent or they'd both die. Dawn came. Germans packed up, moved out to new positions. Never saw the 2 Americans in their midst. 8 in the morning. American lines ahead. Dalton flashed recognition signal. 3 short, 1 long. Sentry nearly shot anyway. "Don't shoot! Brennan and Webb returning!" They stumbled through the wire. Medics ran forward. Took Webb. Pneumonia. Critical condition. Rushed to field hospital. Tried to take Dalton's rifle. He wouldn't let go. Hands frozen around it. Medics had to pry his fingers open. The soup can was still taped to the barrel. Scorched. Dented. Used. "Save the can," Dalton said. "It's a soup can, Sergeant. It saved 200 lives. Save it." Major Stone was waiting. Command post. Maps.
Radio chatter. "Report, Sergeant. 19 mortar positions eliminated, sir. 47 confirmed enemy kills. 3 officers, 1 artillery observer team." Stone studied Dalton. Saw a man who'd aged years in 3 days. Saw blood and dirt and exhaustion. "Well done, Sergeant. Get some rest. Division commander wants a briefing tomorrow 0800. Not arrested, not court-martialed, not punished for the soup can, for the modified ghillie, for breaking every regulation that needed breaking. Rewarded. Dalton walked to medical tent, collapsed on a cot. First real sleep in 72 hours. In his dreams he counted trees. 43. Always 43. One that shouldn't be there. January 26th, 1944. Webb survived. Barely. 3 days in field hospital. Pneumonia, fever that nearly killed him. But Tennessee coal country boys were tough. He pulled through. Returned to duty in March. Dalton spent 3 days under medical observation. Dehydration, exhaustion, minor wounds nobody bothered treating in the field. Hands that shook when he tried to hold a cup. Eyes that wouldn't focus right. The doctor said physical strain. Dalton knew better. 47 faces. 47 men who'd never go home. On the 4th day, Major General Clayton Williams visited. Division commander, a man who rarely left his command post. He came to see one sniper. "Sergeant Brennan." Williams pulled up a chair. Sat like they were equals. They weren't. "Intelligence confirms all 19 mortar positions eliminated. German mortar fire dropped 73%. We estimate you saved between 200 and 600 American lives." Williams paused. Let that number settle. "I'm also told you used modified equipment. A soup can taped to your rifle." "Yes, sir. Army spent $141,000 on flash suppressors. You did it with soup." Williams almost smiled. "What did it cost you?" Dalton looked at his hands, still shaking. 47 men, sir. Some probably had families. "And how many American families kept their sons because of what you did?" No answer for that. Williams stood. "Major Stone recommended Silver Star. I'm upgrading it to Distinguished Service Cross. Your modifications would normally warrant court-martial, but sometimes the manual is wrong. You understood that. I'm assigning you to training operations. You'll teach every sniper in this theater your methods. That's not a request." "Sir, I'm not a teacher." "You are now. Dismissed." February 2nd, 1944. Decoration ceremony. Small affair, 30 soldiers, few officers, flag snapping in Italian wind. Williams read the citation. Extraordinary heroism, innovative tactics, 47 confirmed kills, 200 to 600 lives saved. They pinned the Distinguished Service Cross on Dalton's chest, second highest decoration America gives. Dalton didn't smile, just thought about Merle Caldwell, about a boy who should be getting this medal. That night he put it in his footlocker, didn't look at it again for 20 years. February through August 1944. Dalton taught 400 snipers, hated every minute, hated standing in front of men, hated being treated like a hero, but he taught because it saved lives. 3 core techniques: tree counting, memorize terrain, notice micro changes; modified camouflage, match local environment exactly; improvised suppression, use what's available. Results came fast. American sniper casualties dropped 55%, enemy kills increased 210%. German counter-snipers couldn't find targets that belonged to the terrain. By May, the Gustav line broke. Dalton's techniques credited with reducing casualties by 400 to 800 lives. August 1944. France. December 1944. Ardennes. Dalton returned to combat. 35 kills in France, 28 more in the Bulge, 2 German battalion commanders among them. Career total, 103 confirmed enemy kills. He never celebrated, just did the math. 103 deaths, 600 lives saved, maybe more. Cold mathematics he'd spend 50 years trying to balance. May 1945, war ends, the army offered him a commission. Lieutenant, permanent position developing doctrine. You could write the future, Sergeant. Dalton thought about more years, more teaching, more young men learning efficient killing. Had enough, sir. I'd like to go home. August 15th, 1945. Honorable discharge. Bus from New York to Tennessee. 3 days watching America that didn't know war. Colmont, Tennessee. August 1945. Population still 387. Everything exactly as he'd left it, except Dalton. Older, harder, quieter. His mother cried, held him. You're home. You're safe. Yeah, Ma, I'm home. She didn't ask about the war, saw something in his eyes that didn't want to talk, let it go. His younger brother asked once, "You kill any Germans?" Not something I talk about. Never asked again. Dalton found work at Chattanooga lumber mill. Foreman, $1.40 an hour. Honest work without killing. 1947. Sarah Mitchell taught 3rd grade. Dalton had known her before the war. Sweet, patient, kind. He courted her properly. Walks after church. Dinners with her parents. She asked once, "What was it like?" He looked at her. She saw the weight. "Some things are better left buried." "Okay, but I'm here if you need me." He never did. Some doors stayed closed. They married June 1947. Small ceremony, 20 people. 3 children followed. Thomas in 1948, Mary in 1950, James in 1953. Dalton taught them to hunt. Same .22 his father used, same woods. But different now. Thomas, age 8, held the rifle. "What if I miss, Dad?" "Then you miss. We got food at home. This is just learning." Not like when Dalton was 8, not survival, just skill. He taught them to notice things, count landmarks, see what changes. Why, Dad? Because noticing keeps you safe. Always see what's different. Never told them why he knew this so well. The medals stayed in a shoebox, under the bed, never displayed. Thomas found them once. 1956, age 8. "Dad, what are these?" Dalton looked up, saw the medals in small hands. "Put them back, son." "But what are they for?" Something in his voice, final. "They're not for showing. Put them back." Thomas did. Never asked again. Local VFW knew. Veterans talked. They wanted Dalton to speak. Memorial Day, 1957. "Just a few words about your service." "Got nothing to say that helps anybody."
Real heroes didn't come home. Talk about them. He stayed home that day, worked his garden, tried not to think about Merle dying in his arms. The nightmares came weekly, sometimes nightly. 47 faces. Boys who should be in school, not war. The fake tree. 5 men, 11 seconds, all dead. Merle. Always Merle.
"Did I do something wrong, Sarge?" Dalton would wake shaking, covered in sweat. Sarah never asked, just held him. "You're home, you're safe." But memory isn't safe. 103 lives ended, that weight never left. 1968, 23 years after the war. Lieutenant Colonel Roscoe Webb called from Fort Benning. "Dalton? Webb here." Silence. Then, "You still coughing blood?" Webb laughed. "Cleared up years ago. You still counting trees?" "Every day." Webb explained. He was writing sniper history. Found something interesting. The Brennan method was still taught. Tree counting, modified camouflage, belonging technique, all standard doctrine. But nobody knew the origin. No attribution. "I'm coming to visit." Webb arrived 3 days later. 2 old men, lumber foreman, army colonel, both survivors of 72 hours that should have killed them. They sat on Dalton's porch, drank coffee. "You invented modern doctrine, Dalton." "Didn't invent nothing, just tried not to die. Thousands of soldiers learned your techniques, stayed alive because of them." "Good, that helps balance things." "What things?" "I killed 103 men, some had kids. Don't make me a hero for mathematics." Webb wrote the book anyway. Published 1968. Credited Master Sergeant D. Brennan throughout. The Army read it, realized Dalton Brennan was the foundation of their doctrine. Letter came August, Department of the Army. Distinguished Service Medal. Ceremony at Fort Benning. Dalton wanted to decline. Sarah wouldn't let him. "You're going. Don't want recognition for killing. It's not for you. It's for Webb, for Merle, for all those boys. You represent them." He went. Fort Benning, Georgia, November 1968. 400 snipers in the audience. Veterans from Italy, France, bulge. Webb, front row. Dalton's family, second row. Thomas, Mary, James, Sarah. First time hearing the full story. The citation took 10 minutes. Extraordinary heroism. 47 kills in 72 hours. Innovations that saved hundreds directly. Thousands through training. Foundation of modern tactics. They gave him the medal. Dalton stood there. Age 48. Only suit. Uncomfortable. Ceremony ended. Dalton wanted to leave, get back to Tennessee, back to normal. Then an old man approached. 63. Cane. Purple heart pin. "Sergeant Brennan?" "Yes." The man's eyes filled. He tried to speak. Couldn't. Tried again. "Charlie Company. 1st Battalion. We were pinned by those mortars. 3 days. Men dying every hour." His voice broke. "January 23rd, 1944. They stopped. Just stopped. We didn't know why. Found out later it was you." He gestured to his legs. The cane. "I took shrapnel both legs before you stopped them. Doctors said wheelchair for life. I proved them wrong." Crying openly now. "I got 47 more years because you killed those Germans. Met my wife 1950. Married her. 4 kids. 9 grandchildren. Whole life I wouldn't have." He grabbed Dalton's hand, shook hard. "Wanted to say thank you. For everything." Dalton couldn't speak. Throat tight. 103 men didn't get 47 years. But 600 did. This man, his wife, 4 children, 9 grandchildren, lives branching from 72 hours. Just did what needed doing. But something shifted inside. Not peace, but maybe understanding. That night at the hotel, Thomas found his father alone on the balcony. "Dad." Voice quiet. "We never knew." Dalton looked at his oldest son. 20 now, same age Dalton had been at Monte Cassino. "Didn't want you to know." "Why?" "Because I'm not proud of it. 103 men. Some had sons like you." Thomas sat beside him. "But 600 came home. That veteran, his whole family exists because of you." Math don't make it easier. Mary appeared in the doorway, had been listening.
Is that why you never talked? Why the medals stayed hidden?
Medals are for heroes. I was just trying to keep men like Merle alive. Sarah entered, put her hand on Dalton's shoulder. You carried this alone for 23 years. It was mine to carry. Not anymore, she squeezed. We know now. We understand why you wake up shaking, why you can't talk about it, why you taught us to notice things. James spoke up, youngest. When you taught us to count trees, that was from this. Dalton nodded. You were teaching us to survive, not just hunting. Yeah, his family sat together, not saying much, but understanding more than they ever had. Dalton had carried 103 deaths alone for decades. Tonight, for the first time, the weight was shared. 1975 to 1995. Dalton worked the lumber mill until 1985, retired at 65, pension, gold watch, quiet retirement, hunting with grandchildren, teaching them awareness, never telling them why it mattered so much.
Webb visited twice a year. They'd sit on the porch, drink coffee, remember without talking much. Webb died in 2001, age 81. Arlington burial, full honors. His headstone sits 3 rows from where Dalton would eventually rest. Close enough. The 2 men who survived hell together, still brothers in death. 1994, 50th anniversary D-Day. Local newspaper wanted interview. Mr. Brennan, you were decorated multiple times. Can you tell our readers about your experiences? I was lucky to come home, that's all. But your innovations saved hundreds of lives. Wasn't innovation, just trying not to die. Real heroes didn't come home. Write about them. He ended the interview. October 7th, 1995. Heart attack. Massive. Quick. Dalton was planting winter vegetables, felt pressure in his chest, sat down. Gone before the ambulance arrived. Age 75. 47 years after Monte Cassino. Funeral in Colmont, small church, packed. 3 children, 9 grandchildren. 47 local veterans, 12 active duty snipers Fort Benning sent. Webb's son attended, read a letter his father wrote before he died. Dalton Brennan never wanted to be remembered. He wanted Eddie Caldwell remembered. He wanted those 103 German soldiers to go home. He wanted 600 American lives lived fully. He succeeded at everything except the first. We won't forget him. Everything taught at Fort Benning starts with his innovations. Every sniper who comes home owes him something. Military honors, flag folded, handed to Sarah, headstone simple, Master Sergeant Dalton Brennan. United States Army, 1920 to 1995. Distinguished Service Cross. Below that, Sarah's addition. He counted the trees. Sarah lived 9 more years, died 2004, age 86. Never remarried, kept Dalton's picture on the nightstand, kept his medals in the shoebox where he'd always kept them. When people asked about him, she'd smile. He was a good man who did hard things. And he came home to me. That's all that mattered.
She's buried beside him in Colmont. Together again. Fort Benning, Georgia, present day. The main sniper training range bears his name, Brennan Range, dedicated 1997. Plaque reads, named for Master Sergeant Dalton Brennan, whose innovations saved hundreds of lives and formed the foundation of modern doctrine. Every graduating class receives 1 lecture, the Brennan Principle. Instructor stands before new snipers. The manual is written for general situations. Combat is always specific. Sergeant Brennan understood that, knew when doctrine was wrong, had courage to adapt. Pause. But remember the cost. Brennan killed 103 men, saved 600 lives, thousands more through training. The cost was 1 private named Merle Caldwell, 19 years old, dead because standard equipment didn't match terrain. Brennan never forgot. Neither should you. Silence. Innovation without discipline kills.
Discipline without adaptation kills. Know the difference. That's the Brennan Principle. Colmont, Tennessee. Today, population 387, same as 1928. The ridge behind the Brennan house still has 142 trees. Lightning took one in a storm, never grew back. Dalton would have noticed that night. Because that's what he did. Notice what others don't. Use what others overlook. Save lives others write off. In Tennessee woods, wind moves through 142 trees. Same woods where a boy learned to hunt, where missing meant family went hungry, where one fallen oak started a journey that changed warfare. Somewhere a grandfather teaches his grandson to notice things. See how that branch broke different? Always notice what changes. Might save your life someday. The lesson continues. The legacy lives. Dalton Brennan is gone, but what he learned in Tennessee poverty, what he proved in Italian mountains, what he taught to thousands, that remains. Count, notice, adapt, save lives. The Brennan Principle. What one soup can and one poor boy from Tennessee gave to America.